Does it feel like you haven't gotten back to yourself or found that spark inside after a difficult childbirth experience? It's so common. It's one of the signs of trauma and one of the long-standing after effects of a traumatic experience. My name's Allison Lorne. I'm a certified nurse midwife, and I help people recover from difficult and traumatic childbirth experiences. I want you to know you're not alone. There's so many people that have had traumatic experiences in childbirth, and recovery isn't just about physically getting back your body. There's a whole bunch of mental, emotional, and spiritual recovery that goes into following up after a traumatic event. I run groups online, and it's one of the best ways to find community, build relationships, find witness and validation in your experience. These groups are a way for like-minded people to come together and really bond over trauma recovery. Now, we don't go into the details and events of trauma. It's not about rehashing old stories. It's really solution-focused work that's about getting your sparkle back. It's work that you're totally capable of. And if you have clicked on this video and you're watching this far, I applaud you for even engaging and reaching for solutions. It's a big step just to recognize that you need help and that there are resources beyond yourself for getting back to your own emotional well-being. I also have a workbook that is just now available. I'm so excited to offer it. It goes over my 5-step process of rewriting your birth story. And a lot of the work that I do one-on-one with clients is about getting into the details of the birth story, looking for themes of loss of agency, disempowerment, victimization, and being able then to shift the narrative. We're looking for ways to highlight your resilience, your coping, your heroism. And this is work that's focused on taking away the focus from the external events and all the story that's attached to what everybody else did during your birth, and really focusing on your internal world, what your emotional state is in reaction to the events of your birth, the responses that you had at the time, and also exploring alternate stories. It's about shifting that narrative and really getting into imagining how things could have been different, what you wish you had seen, said, been responded to in a way that would have been more empowering and more validating in your experience. So that's not the workbook, and the workbook's really a companion to the online group. The group is founded in that personal work of rewriting the birth story, and we really don't focus on the story in the group because we don't want to re-traumatize one another, and we're not there to just rehash the difficulties of the experience itself. It's really about getting through that experience, reaching through into the other side, highlighting what it is that you're reaching for, capitalizing on your strengths, rebuilding that sense of self, that sense of confidence, that sense of self-agency. And this is work that's so good to do for yourself, of course, but all your relationships benefit, including your relationships with your children. You know, this might be the most important piece of it, is that they look to you as an example and they learn from you about how to cope with difficult experiences and challenging events in our lives. It's common to want to shut down and not deal with the difficult emotions. It's a self-defense mechanism and coping mechanism to put our difficult feelings up on the shelf, but really, when we get into healing work, it's about integration. It's about embracing the negative in order to expand into the positive. It's really about finding whole expression and the embodiment work of finding safety in the body, expanding tolerance and capacity for the difficult experience. That's what then creates the safety that we're looking for. That's what creates the tolerance that we're looking for, the increased bandwidth to deal with stressors in our lives, as well as being able to be there for others. Trauma has a way of just hijacking our coping mechanisms and putting us in survival mode. It's like constantly scanning for threats, hypervigilance, not feeling safe in the world. All of that interferes with being able to be really present with our loved ones. And this healing work is a way to increase your depth of connection in your relationships. And when we're talking about relationships, of course, the relationships with our partners might be one of the most significant and important relationships in our lives. And this work also opens the door to heal any rifts that might have occurred in the traumatic birth experience with your partner as well. It's so common to go through a traumatic event and then unfortunately that be a wedge in the relationship. Like you're just getting by dealing with your own trauma. Your partner may be dealing with their own secondary trauma or vicarious trauma. And that occurs just in witnessing other people being traumatized in traumatic events. But it's like if you can't even show up to care for yourself and have the self-care of investing in your own healing, it's near impossible to be there for somebody else. So sometimes we'll be dealing with our own trauma recovery, and then like not being able to be there for our partners creates this wall, creates this division. And so often, you know, the woman, the birthing parent is the one that's like faced with this urge, this desire, this need, this demand for this trauma recovery work. And so you might do the work and your partner might not realize that they even have trauma. We don't talk enough about secondary and vicarious trauma to begin with, and partners might not even feel like they are entitled to have their own trauma or that their trauma deserves attention, seeing what you're going through and dealing with your trauma. But your healing work is going to lead the way. It's an example for others, your partner, as well as everyone else in your life, to understand the importance of this work. Really, it's like having the courage to do this work, engage in this work, gives other people permission to admit their experiences were difficult as well and seek help for their experiences also. So doing the work yourself not only increases your presence and connection with others, but it also gives others inspiration, permission to heal, and encouragement to do so. So the workbook, like I said, that's available. It's a great place to start on your own. It's full of journal prompts and exercises to help get you started. And then the online community, you know, this is such a beautiful thing to be growing this community, investing in the healing of others, showing and teaching others, you know, from my own experience and my own trauma journey, what I've been through in my healing journey and how that can really help, you know, having a map of how to get through this healing work that's outlined in the workbook. It's so helpful to be able to put pen to paper, get your thoughts organized, know where to start, what those middle steps are, and what our goal is in the end. Our goal being you rewriting your birth story to a narrative that's empowering and inspiring, and then sharing that story with others. How often have you heard of others' traumatic birth stories? And how many times have you told your story that might not have felt very good? It's perpetuating this negative narrative in your own mind every time you tell a negative birth story. You're the one that's hearing that story more than anybody. And it's reinforcing really unhelpful self-beliefs about just being incompetent, the grief, the anger, all these negative emotions are just stuck in time. And when we retell the story, we're just reliving them again and again. So healing that birth story is important for you because it's about finding your own self-confidence, finding a way to get through that story with a way that isn't re-traumatizing and reinforcing negative beliefs about yourself. Every time you tell a story and you have adrenaline reaction, which might feel like tingly hands or increased heart rate or sweatiness or nausea. All of those are signs that you're being triggered by the story. And that chemical reaction in your body is setting a hook into the memory, and it's just getting deeper and deeper every time you're telling that story. So first things first, like, stop telling that birth story the way you've been telling it, and understand that telling your new story is going to be so valuable for your own healing, for subsequent pregnancies, for the cohesiveness of your family, for the depth of your relationships, for the inspiration and encouragement of everyone else in your life that'll hear that story. I hope this video has given you some sense of why the work is important and what waits for you on the other side of doing the work. Please visit my website, holisticbirthrecovery.com, to learn more about my offerings, the one-to-one work, the online community, as well as the workbook that's available for purchase. I also have a free postpartum care checklist, and that you can just download. The link's in the description of this video, and it's full of tips and tricks to create more ease and comfort in your postpartum period. I want you to know that you're not alone in this work, and that there is so much out there evidencing the value of trauma recovery and trauma integration. Traumatic childbirth experiences are things that we just don't talk about enough, and I want you to know that you are in a very good company when you recognize that you want help and you reach out for that help. There's a whole world waiting to meet you. I'm Allison Lorne. Thanks again for watching.